Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another spoiler review for Star Wars related. And I'll be covering season 1 of The Mandalorian. This picks up not too long after the events of Return of the Jedi. And man, this show done gangbusters. That's easily one of my favorite thing of Star Wars. I mean, eventually I would do like a YouTube ranking tier list of Star Wars related stuff. Once I'm done with like, you know, after Rise of Skywalker, I'll be completely finished with like all the Star Wars in chronological order reviews. And since it's like a limited series in season 1 and 2 and Book of Boba Fett, I'll be covering like fairly quickly. So we'll jump right into it. We meet this new Mandalorian named Din Djarin. Spoiler reviews. Mind you, spoiler. Starring Pedro Pascal. Now, I'm pretty sure Pedro Pascal has been through many other stuff prior to the Mandalorian, but this really put his name on the map because he got like in like Wonder Woman 2 and more recently the Nick Cage movie like about Nick Cage, and I forgot what that thing is called, but eventually once it's available for streaming I want to take a look at that because I love Nick Cage. But Pedro Pascal has having a time of his life, and I remember catching a clip of an interview, not an interview, but it's like he was being asked a question at like a con, and like he recalls, like, I think I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure he was talking to his father when he was cast as the Mandalorian. He was going crazy because like all of us, he was a little kid watching Star Wars, when he was little, and like he's calling his father. It's like, Dad, like I'm in a Star Wars, and like I'm gonna be in Star Wars. It's like I wanted to have that moment too, because when I was a little kid, I remember watching the original Star Wars trilogy on TV with my father. And, like, he got me hooked on Star Wars as a little kid, and it's like, just a voice act, because I'm a voice actor. I want to like voice act in a Star Wars TV show or whatever. Like, I don't even care. I want to have that moment too, to where I can just tell my father, like, hey, I'm in a Star Wars thing. It's like, just to have that, because like to come full circle, like that, it's just it'll be amazing, a huge dream come true. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, I'll get to have that moment. But anyway, the Mandalorian, comes in. You get Carl Weathers as like a lead of this bounty hunter guild named Grief, who sets up bounty orders for anybody to like just pick up to get paid. It'd be a great video game in the same vein as almost in the same vein as Fallen Order, to where you can play as either Mando himself or just like a generic or not generic, but like a new Mandalorian, and just click bounty guilds or whatever. I don't know, but it'd be kind of cool. Check out my discussion video on like what if Dave Filoni helped create a Star Wars fighting game, because can you imagine, it's not even just about just with like Jedi specifically. You got like Mandalorians and stormtroopers and rebels, like you can have like at least 50 characters. All, for the bulk of it, all has been recognizable people from even with like the TV shows, from like and the movies, like from episode 1 all the way up to Rise of Skywalker. That will be bonkers, because like, come on, it's like, all right, check out that video. Like, I put up like all the characters that I imagine, except for Darth Maul, I forgot to include Darth Maul on that list, but I mentioned him. So like but it's like at least a good 50 characters, and like the kind of style I want the fighting game to take inspiration from, and like you check out the video, like it, because the YouTube algorithms, like the more support the better. But it's like that was like an idea that I was talking with some friends. It's like that will be so good, just like they have like a because there's been like certain characters like Darth Vader was in like, and Yoda has been in like a Soul Calibur game as like a special guest characters. But Star Wars need their own fighting game because they have shooters and like things like Jedi Fallen Order, where it's like open world whatever, but they never had like their own fighting game. And I think they established enough lore and characters to formulate a good significant fighting game. But anyway, Mando gets this under the table request and goes to meet this client. Turns out to be like certain specs of the Empire still left after their massive defeat by the rebels and Luke Skywalker. So they pretty much like they're pretty much scattered to the winds, and like you throughout the season, and even like the second season, you see like bits and pieces still trying to reclaim a foothold in the galaxy. And you'll see in the second season like how that kind of lead into like a supposed Snoke thing. It kind of would explain like how Snoke would be a thing, but because Snoke was an awful character from the jump, but we'll see how like he's a thing. But Mando's tasked to collect this bounty who he believes to be like a 50-year-old person, but when he arrives he to the last known location, because you see like at this point we already know like he has some skills as a as a Mandalorian, but he goes to this planet to where the last known location of this target would be, and he meets up with like Cleo, played by Nick Nolte. Now, of course, I remember Nick Nolte way back during the days of 48 Hours because I watched that on TV as a little kid. But it was, a movie made in the 80s. I wasn't born yet, but I saw it later when I was a little kid on TV. So that's how I remember Nick Nolte. It's like, and then it's like besides 48 Hours, I've seen him in a few character roles, but he was the villain in like Eric Bana's The Hulk. Man, that was a time. But yeah, I think that was the last thing I saw him in up until this point, because he's been like I don't know, he's been dealing with like I don't know if it's like, it could be like, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth or like accuse anybody, but it's like he possibly been dealing with like maybe substance abuse, or he just was retired for a little while. I can't remember, but it's been like a good long while since we've seen Nick Nolte and stuff. So yeah, for me it's just like from like Eric Bana's The Hulk up until this point, it's been like a significant gap in time. But maybe he's been in stuff here and there in between that time, but I just haven't seen it. But he's played Khalil, and people love Khalil with this like, because he has like a little tick, I guess, in his species, because it's like he says, "I have spoken," and like people like quoting that. So like he helps Mando in his search, but he teaches him how to ride this little big animal thing, and he wants Mando to, because he used to be like not employed, but it's like in servitude of the Empire, making like doing like engineering work and whatnot, but he didn't want to be a part of that. So he kind of bought his way out of servitude, and now he want to live a peaceful life. But now his peaceful life being disrupted when all these bounty hunters come to this planet and causing this ruckus and everything like that. He wants like Mando to deal with all that. Mando does, with the help of another bounty hunter, IG-11, who's like the more like recognizable droid assassin in the Star Wars franchise, because that particular model of droid always turns out to be an assassin in one shape or another. And you see that throughout the season, Mando had this massive prejudice against droids. We don't know until like the end of the season to why he has this prejudice against them, because when he's a little kid, droids, particularly droids from the Empire, came and it's possible those droids were during like the Clone Wars, because those type of models I only seen during the Clone Wars TV show. I haven't really seen them during the original trilogy like that. I could be wrong, but it's because of that is why I'm pretty sure it's during the Clone Wars, because you see all these not bounty hunters, but Mandalorians come rescue him, because these droids wiped out the town he lived in, including his parents, and there's only like a handful of survivors, but he was raised as a foundling in the Mandalorian tribe, and that's how he was raised, and under this creed, and that's what he always abide by. And this is the way, and that is another quote that people say a lot after this series, is like, this is the way. So he had no choice but to work with IG-11, because it was like too many people in this little enclave. Well, was it an enclave? It was more like this little like encampment. That's another E word I was looking for. Encampment, where all these bounty hunters is like, making camp at, and he and IG-11 team up, take them all down, and find the target. Turns out to be this Baby Yoda, and that we later find out in season 2 his name is Grogu, but I ain't gonna call him fucking Grogu because that sounds fucking stupid. Like some people like to call him the child. I just say Baby Yoda because it's a fucking Baby Yoda. That is it, because it rolls off the tongue better rather than Grogu. It's like somebody just really like just made a sound and it came out Grogu, and it's like, well, go with that. It doesn't seem like a very half-assed name. So Baby Yoda was found, and of course it's the same species from Yoda's race, and they age very differently from everybody else. As I mentioned in a previous review, the Wookiees and Yoda's people are probably the two species that I can think of that age slower than everybody else. Because like you find out in the Solo movie that I did a review of, check that out, that Chewbacca is already like in like 500s or 600s at that point. So it's like I'm pretty sure he's still like that, up to the point of Rise of Skywalker, because it's like, maybe like 650 by that point. Yeah, so Baby Yoda is like 50 years old, so I can imagine like the process is with like children of his race, but they're also very attuned to the Force, more so than any other species. Them and like the Dathomir species too, but they use it primarily for like witchcraft, or at least more enticed to like dark side-ish stuff. I could be wrong, but they very attuned more so than any other culture. So Mando obviously is like, having mixed feelings because the task says bring him in alive or dead didn't matter. IG-11 decides like it's easier just to wipe him out and then bring him back, and like Mando shoots him dead and takes the child back. All the while, dealing with like, of course, it's like you get little side missions, kind of like a video game when it comes to, because they got a sparse out this like 7-episode season where you're not only dealing with bounty hunters, but you also got like go to planet to planet, stuff like that. But Mando brings the kid back. He has second thoughts, comes back, well, he gets his payment with his like gets paid in Beskar armor, like one like the strongest metals in the Star Wars universe. It's kind of like vibranium for Marvel, whereas like Beskar is the only material that can that can't be cut by lightsabers. So he gets his payment. He goes back to his Mandalorian enclave. His armorer builds him a brand new armor. It's nice and shiny. Oh, dang it. I forgot to, before my review, I forgot to bring my like little pop figure Mando that I got last year at the C2E2. I'll bring it in for the next video. But when I review season 2 after this video. But Mando ends up turning back and takes down a bunch of stormtroopers and steals back Baby Yoda. So he decides, and then he gets like ambushed by most of the bounty hunter guild, but he gets help from other Mandalorians so he can make his escape. So now he spent most of the season hopping and skipping to planet to planet, trying to lay low. But he meets like Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano, who you probably recall from like WWE or from the first Deadpool movie as Angel Dust, the strong female. But I know she, after season 2, she got into like kind of canceled, for lack of a better word, because of what she said in a Twitter about, like, I'm pretty sure the trans community, something very very, very problematic. And it's like and it's supposed to, and like the character like really like stood out very well for fans, and there was supposed to have been like a Cara Dune TV show, but that got scrapped because of what Gina Carano said on her Twitter thing. But of course now like Elon Musk is very close to taking over Twitter. Now he's gonna be inviting all kinds, even though free space is a thing and whatever. It's just like you gotta allow like even like people who say some very effed up things, they have the right to say it. Doesn't mean they can't suffer any kind of consequences of what they say, but they have the right to say it. So I had to bring that up when I knew when I was covering this. I got to make sure I can acknowledge that fact. But he meets with Cara Dune, and they help out this like farming village on this planet. And my God, that's another trope. I was getting kind of like I know it's like a pattern like with Star Wars. For the most part, I'm pretty sure it's some TV shows that have things like that. But like Star Wars more specifically, there's always an episode they got to deal with helping out. Like you see that in Clone Wars. If you watch my like review for Clone Wars and Rebels, they always have an episode helping little villages fight back against like bandits or an army or something like that. It's like always something like that, and it's like that's starting to become a trope. But I don't even think I could even qualify that as a trope because not every show does that. It's only like things like it's like a huge franchise, that would make sense to have something like that in. But it's just like, man, they always have something like that. And I kind of feel like, at least Star Wars specifically that I can think of, or even something akin to Star Wars, should avoid having like an episode where they help this small group deal with this bigger, band of bandits or soldiers to protect their town or whatever. Because like, it's kind of like weird. It's like at least three. This would be like I don't know if it's the fourth or the fifth thing in the Star Wars franchise where we have to deal with something like that. And it's kind of weird. And I kind of wish they kind of avoid certain things like that. But they stop these bandits, and then he goes off, and meets up with like the guy who was Flask in Batman Begins. Like, what, your kids don't like falafel? Like, swear to me, that guy. He and of course he was in Sons of Anarchy, but it's like this probably I've seen him in other stuff, but it's the only two that I really remember him in. But he, and then you also get like Bill Burr in this, and I remember Bill Burr was getting interviewed, and I think it was like by Conan O'Brien, where he was convinced to join the cast of The Mandalorian with some kind of prodding from his wife, because he was kind of hesitant on even doing it. But like, I'm glad, because like he was a great character, and like he really got time to shine in season 2. But it's like a nice change of pace, because he's from Boston, that Boston accent. Because by and large, we get a lot of British actors involved in Star Wars, and it's kind of like like Star Wars is very British, but like with like a few hidden, some specks of American here and there, and you got like Boston, and this is the Boston part of Star Wars, and this is like Chicago part of Star Wars, and Kentucky part of Star Wars, and you got like England is just like a massive spot here, because kind of like a lot of them, like it's like a very British, but and also during that episode where it's like helping those farm town fight off those bandits, one of the guys that came asking for Mando's help, I swear to you, and I don't want to make it sound like racist or anything like that. I swear to you, I'm not making it sound like that. But isn't that same guy who was that clerk in the Loki series that everybody loved out the gate, who didn't know what a fish was? Because like, is now because he's Asian, it's just like the facial structure, the jawline. It's like you put him in a suit. It's like, ain't that the clerk? Because I swear, it's like, that's the freaking clerk. It's like, because it didn't dawn on me after Loki series, because he was like I guess he was like another character actor, but it's like he really like got on people's minds as soon as like the first season, the pilot of the Loki series. But nobody, I don't think anybody brought, because I could be wrong. Maybe it's not the same guy, but I'm saying like, I want to know why he didn't bring it up. The fact that that's the same dude who was the clerk in Loki series. It's funny. But like, he gets Flask. I'm gonna call him Flask. I don't know his doggone Star Wars name. It's always some random like thing. But not all Star Wars names gonna stick with you. But Flask asked Mando's help to join this 5-man squad to liberate one of the team's brothers. There's another Twi'lek alien race. And like, it's apparently like, the sister who is on the team seems like more like a very, because she got like fangs and stuff like that. Like, her and her brother got fangs. It's like, I don't recall any of the Twi'lek species having fangs. It's kind of weird. But she and Mando seems like used to have like a thing, because they used to work together. And like, they go to this you know, one or I'm pretty sure it's only like one guy, but it's like this like floating, not floating. It's like a space, you know, holding cell thing. You know, that's like on the move to be transport, like a transport cell thing, to move these prisoners to a facility. Being like run by one single rebel guard, but it had like all these like rebel droids, keeping extra guard, but only one pilot, human pilot. But they get on board, they release the guy, but they all end up double crossing Mando. He having to like, it's a cool sequence of him just taking them all out one by one, like a cool ass action movie. But then he brings, while he puts everybody in lockup, he didn't kill them. He puts, except for the droid, that's part of the team that kind of help pilot, Mando's ship, because they need Mando's ship to like maneuver around like the sensors of the barge. And he kills like the droid who was trying to like kill Baby Yoda. But then, I remember the scene where like Bill Burr drops Baby Yoda as like the droid is like moving behind, like maneuvering around like the sensors just to avoid getting caught. And I'm like, you pick up that freaking baby, you ignoramuses. I remember behaving like that when I first saw that, that episode. I lost my mind because everybody fell in love with Baby Yoda. And it's like Jon Favreau made sure that, because, normally Star Wars is trying to get new characters with toy lines out to market right away before the show even airs, because Jon Favreau wanted to keep this a secret. He wanted like Baby Yoda to be like a complete secret and big surprise for everybody, and they want to wait until after the first episode before those toy lines start shipping out. And I'm glad they did, because all these toy companies are getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Wait till the show airs before to allow the introduction of this character before the toy line starts rolling out. Because like I said, I got like a pop figure with like Mando holding Baby Yoda. Last year I didn't have like the extra scratch to have Baby Yoda separately, but like I wanted one with them together, so I found one. I think I got the last one, so that's so I can get two in one go. Because I'm pretty sure those were flying off the shelves with Mando holding Baby Yoda. So he brings the brother back while the rest were locked up. He brings the brother back to Flask, and of course Flask's trying to double cross him once he flies off after he got his little payment. And he left the homing beacon, that rebel pilot left turned on, and he left it in like that Twiggly guy's pocket. And of course, like, here comes the rebels, and they shoot down this Flask's base where he does his business with like very shady characters. I don't know if we'll ever see Flask again, but I won't be too surprised. But that whole place really got torn to shreds. Eventually, Grief sends like a signal to Mando saying like the more stormtroopers come occupying this area, you want to broker some kind of deal to try to get them all, allow Mando to take out like the leader, and like so we can get rid of these stormtroopers that's occupying his planet that's usually been like free for business because it was in like the outer realm. But Mando, get Cara Dune help because he knows some kind of trapping. He needs some kind of backup. He gets Cara Dune, and he gets Khalil, who found the broken IG-11, repurpose it to be like a nurse droid, even though still Mando doesn't trust it because he needs somebody to look after Baby Yoda. They go back. The planet's Navarro. I'm pretty sure it's also the name of a Mortal Kombat character, but I believe it was the Senator or Centaur guy from Mortal Kombat Alliance. The guy with the horse body. Uh, they go back. They're at camp, and some flying creatures come in, like scarring Grief on the arm. Baby Yoda comes, heals it, and then you know Grief has a change of heart. He takes out the two bounty hunters that was with him, because he confessed, like, yeah, they were planning on backstabbing Mando, but he had a change of heart, but the other bounty hunters didn't want to agree with him, so Grief took him out, and they reestablished like a brand new plan. Khalil makes off with Baby Yoda back to the ship, but eventually he gets murked by two stormtroopers along the way, and voice, or at least I should say played by Jason Sudeikis, and I forgot the guy's name, but he's the deputy in the Sonic movies. I'm pretty sure it was that guy who was the other one. And like their little back and forth was kind of reminds me of like the thugs from the Arkham video games, where you just want to listen to them just chat for a minute, and you'd be surprised like what you might hear. It's hilarious. But you see them like knocking, like punching like Baby Yoda, it's like every time he just budges or makes a sound, it's like, hey, quiet, boo. It's like, you motherfuckers. It's like, God, it's like you don't even care if it's like a fucking baby you sitting there punching it. What the fuck is wrong with y'all sadistic fucks? But they Mando, Grief, and Cara Dune make it to the town. Of course, they try to like take care of things, but you meet Moff Gideon, played by what's his name? Because he's like done a lot of stuff like Breaking Bad. Juan Carlo Esposito. I don't know why I keep like messing up the doggone name, but he's Moff Gideon, who remembers Din Djarin, because when he was a kid, he was just like a kind of sort of low level officer who was in charge of, because that's what I'm thinking, like it has something to do during the early stages of the rise of the Empire, because I doubt Moff Gideon was part of like the Republic, but he remembered like Din Djarin's name and like during the purge of the Mandalorians, and that's where he got his name. But he wants the child, but IG-88 picks up the child, kills like or knocks out the two stormtroopers, takes the baby, and like and takes out a good chunk of stormtroopers while making it inside the base with like the others. And so Moff Gideon decides like, okay, he sends like a stormtrooper with a flamethrower and starts like trying to burn the place down. They find like a little hidden hatch, for the Mandalorians to like sneak in and out of places, at least to an underground network. IG-88, breaks open the grate, but like Din Djarin gets injured, and so while he's trying to like convince like everybody to go away, I'll hold them off as much as I can. But IG-88 stands, since he's got nurse droid protocols now, he uses BAFTA spray, because like the BAFTA tank that heals people, he got this spray to heal like the wound on the back of that's on the back of Mando's head, but he had to take off the helmet, and like Mendel's, saying like, no living person has ever seen my face, because part of their creed. You're not supposed to remove your helmet. Of course, there's other fringe groups of Mandalorians that don't abide by certain rules of the traditional Mandalorian code, um, like you see from like Bo-Katan, who you'll see in uh, shoot, stuff in my hair, like you'll see in Mandalorian season 2. She is part of the group that don't bite all the way to the Mandalorian stuff. However, Mandalorian, I like this little moment because like IG-11 mentions like, well, I'm not a living person, and it's like he takes something because like that's the only way Din Djarin can like allow. He doesn't have to bring it up, but he feel like I can live with the fact that like this droid, because technically no, he's not a living person, so like I won't be breaking my code. So he it's kind of like if Batman or Spider-Man, who have like a strong code of not killing, taking out a vampire, they can probably live the fact that technically they're not a living person anymore. So it's like it's not breaking their code. You can like worm your way into not going against their moral like foundation. So IG-88 heals Mando, and he brings him to the tunnel where they regroup, meets the Mandalorian leader, who helps then restock his ammo and stuff like that, and they move on down the tunnel. It's like this like lava tunnel where they go on this barge, and they're supposed to they can make it escape at the end, but it's like they already got like stormtroopers at the end. IG-88, who still has like a self-destruct mode in him, decides like it's kind of like very Terminator, where it's like it's like because like Din Djarin's like he, because of what IG-11 decides to do for the sake of the going out of his way to save Child and him, and it's almost like also like here was it Hero 6, something like Hero 6, with that big marshmallow robot thing, where it's like are you happy with your service or something like that, where it's like very Terminator, where it's like he's stepping into the lava and everything like that and sacrificing himself, but he says this little line where it's like, don't be sad, and Din is like, I'm not sad, I'm a pro, like I'm a service droid, or something he said, like a nurse droid. I can tell from your vocal patterns that you are indeed sad. And it's almost kind of mirrors like, I know why you cry, but it's something I can never do. It's almost something to that same vein. That's what I immediately thought of. But he asked like Din, like, if you, that's why it gets to like Big Hero 6. That's where Big Hero 6 comes into play, where it's like, are you happy with your service? So it's like, I want to achieve my functions, which is primarily to make sure the care of this child is safe. So Din has to say yes. So it's like IG goes into the lava, walks down towards the end of the path, and self-destructs, take out the platoon of stormtroopers, so the rest can make it out. But then you got Moff Gideon in one of the TIE fighters who's trying to shoot at them, but with the jetpack the Mandalorian leader gave Din Djarin, he flies in, places grenades on the ship, knocks it out of the sky. He's still surviving. You see later at the end he has the dark saber, and we know how that will end up in the next season, and a little bit into the Book of Boba Fett. But now, like, Navarro's safe, from like the remnants of Empire troops, and now with the new task set by the Mandalorian leader, Din Djarin has to now go out and find other Jedi who can take care of this force sensitive child. So that will be like the main thing in season 2. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed The Mandalorian. It's like one of my favorite shows, and it's like, man, it's like just stellar work. And I love Pedro Pascal as Mandalorian, and like it's probably like my favorite Mandalorian. I think it reached even above Boba Fett, because I think like that's why I didn't care for like a Boba Fett show. There's certain things about the Boba Fett show that I like, but it's mostly in the second half, and it has mostly nothing to do with Boba Fett, and it's kind of crummy because people put Boba Fett on this kind of big pedestal, because the first time we seen him was in Empire, and he kind of went out like a little bitch and returned to Jedi, but we'll know what happened to him in Book of Boba Fett once we get to it. But it's like he's like a stoic bounty hunter that looked cool, is basically made for like a toy line, and he didn't say much, but somehow people like really raised him to a level of like Luke Skywalker, some kind of like that kind of level of popularity, and it's like he didn't have much agency to get him that right to be that. And like Din Djarin is like I hate to say it, is like better because we got more time with him. He wasn't just like a non-speaking, cool-looking guy. And it's like his attachments, his like fatherly attachments towards what he believes is like a foundling, and it's like the attachment, the father and son attachment. It's like it made the character like grow to a certain heights in popularity that's honestly way more than Boba Fett, to be frank. But if you've seen The Mandalorian season 1 recently, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. I will be getting right into season 2.